had it to do over again, we would have suggested to the Planning Commission and Conservation, any other appropriate body at the time, to keep it as part of the original parcel rather than severing it, keep it on the tax rolls, and they wouldn't be able to do much with it anyway because it basically should be conservation land. But that having been said, it's water under the bridge. We're now faced with a situation where do we want to accept this piece of property? Obviously, we're not comfortable with the restrictions that have been placed on it by the current owner. Do we want to pursue further negotiations through the town administrator as far as answering some of the concerns that our town council has raised, see if we can get the owner to agree to some of the changes, and this is without expending any other dollars. The only other thing that we'd have to find out again is what cost would a 21E take place, how much? Mr. Vino.
I'll go first.
You go first.
My understanding, and somebody stop me if I'm wrong, is that nobody could ever build on this property anyways, because it's total, absolute wetland, abuts the river. I would have to say I am not in favor of even pursuing this. I'm not in favor of spending any money on this. I would like to see it stay on the tax rolls. I would never accept it with these conditions, especially the last one. Any other acts or uses not specifically authorized. Authorized by who? That means if a snowmobile goes across there, they can take their land back. This is ridiculous, in my opinion.
I don't think you get much disagreement, Tom.
So I am not in favor of pursuing, even taking this land as a gift.
With these stipulations. Mr. Bagan?
Yeah, I have to agree with Mr. Vino, although when someone says you can never build, I don't think that goes in North Reading.
Never.
But I think it's, the way it's worded right now, it's too restrictive. There's no question about that. I've got several notes that concur with the town council, and unless we brought a lot of the town council's verbiage into the agreement, I wouldn't be able to go along with it either.
I guess that's my question. Do we want town administrator to enter into negotiations with Mr. Caruso and try and get the suggested changes by town council changed into the... Mr. Vino says no.
I say no.
Yes.
I would say, yeah, I would say if town administrator can sit down with him and, and if it doesn't go any place from there,
right.
I would agree with Mr. Vino, stays on the rolls, or it goes to the Audubon Society or somebody else. I mean, originally we were in favor of taking the parcel and taking the gift, but it's now got so many strings to it, I don't think it's worth it the way it's stated.
Mr. Rowe?
I'd like to see us pursue it, because I'd like to see it come under the control of the town. But I'd like to see it come under the control of the town without any restrictions. If he wants to donate the land to the town of North Reading, then donate the land and be done with it. As far as it going to other, and I agree to a point with Joe, you never say never, because who knows, but it is definitely wetlands, and I'm sure that it's within, it's right on the river, so there's going to be restrictions no matter who owns it. Those restrictions that through the state, the local bylaws, I don't have a problem with, because they will go with it just because it's where it is. But I think the Conservation Commission has an interest in it, and I would like to see the land preserved for us, but not with the restrictions on it. So if the town administrator can enter into an agreement with the person or through the attorneys with no restriction, then fine, continue on with it, try to get it without any restrictions.
Mr. Smith?
I feel the same way. Like I say, I agree. If we can get all these out of here with the recommendation the town council's got in here, it's everything under the sun. The only thing I disagree is the fact I would personally not do a 21E study. I just think it'd be far too expensive. And that being the case, if we're going to do a 21A study, I would not be in favor of, except for the land, because it'd be foolish to go through that expense. I agree with the rest of them.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think we should pursue it to a certain degree here and see if we can come to some agreement with Mr. Caruso as far as reducing or removing the number of strings attached to the offer. And if we
And with
can,
the-
then we can maybe come to an agreement and accept it, because again, I think it's a parcel of land that should probably come under the care, custody, and control of the Conservation Commission, but not with so many restrictions.
Mr. Chairman, just for clarification purposes, one is that there would not be a 21E study, I think that's...
But we want to find out, not necessarily, we want to find out what the cost of that would be.
Cost,
Okay?
okay.
We want the cost so that we can make an informed decision. Mr.
Okay.
Smith is not in favor of the 21E study being done.
Okay.
But,
Yeah, and secondly, just for clarification purposes, because Selectman Rowe kept saying donating to the town, I assume the assumption is donating to the Conservation Commission, not the town?
right.
So-
Well, with the wording that the town council put in, because he changed the wording to be,
Yeah, he cleaned up the language, in other words, that the town accepted on behalf of, put it under the care, custody, and control of the...
right, it grants to the town of North Reading, a Massachusetts municipal corporation, acting by and through its conservation commission for conservation purposes, so, I mean, to me, the best way is just strictly donate it to the town of North Reading. That would be, that would be the ideal way.
But,
Then there's no restrictions.
no, but I don't know,
Period. But
personally, I
yeah.
don't have a problem with the Conservation Commission getting it, but I think the way that he wrote it was...
The way he wrote it, at
Reading
least it should be that way.
acting by and through its Conservation Commission. So I think we should incorporate as much as the town council suggested here, with the exception of probably the 21E, just to find out what the cost of that's going to be. But again, the other thing was the right of reverter and charitable trust was a major concern to members of the board too, where down the road, if something goes awry in their eyes, they get to reclaim it. To me, that was kind of a catch-all for them and not for us. So, clear as mud, Mr. Younger?
Yes, clear as-
Okay.
Clear as mud.
All right. So, we'll await at a future date to hear how the negotiations
Okay.
have taken place. Next order of business is a joint meeting of the North Reading Board of Selectmen and the North Reading Housing Authority. And we have a letter of correspondence from Mr. Sherry, the Executive Director of the Housing Authority, requesting a joint meeting for this evening at 8 o'clock for the purpose of filling a vacancy on the Housing Authority. As you know, Mr. Ron Ramsey, who served for a number of years on the Housing Authority, vacated his seat, and the vacancy would be through the May election of this year, and the person who would get it, if they so chose, would have to stand for election at that particular time. The Housing Authority has requested that we fill the vacancy. We have one application from Brian Blackwood, a resident since 1979, local attorney, willing to serve. Mr. Sherry, would you like to introduce the members of your commission, Housing Authority?
Yes, I put.
Nice to see you.
This is Mr. Carrier, the chairman, Mr. Delaney, the vice chairman, Mrs. O'Leary in charge of everything.
So,
Treasurer she is.
okay. Mr. Carrier, you have the duty of being the chairman. Again, apparently you've met with Mr. Blackwood. I know Mr. Blackwood personally, and I think he would serve well. But this is a joint appointment, and it is by a majority vote of those present and voting, which would fill the vacancy. Any other comments you'd like to make, or the rationale as to you don't want to wait for the election? You have other pressing business? You have Mr. Delaney?
Steve, I have one question. I'm a little confused. I think the letter we received stated that the term, if whoever is appointed, will be until the year, I think it's 2002 or 2003. And I originally thought that it was going to be until the May election. Now you just stated the May election. That's what's confusing, which is it upon the unexpired term, or is it until the May election?
When will be attended? No, I believe it.
Is he filling an
He's
unexpired
filling an
term?
unexpired term. However, if there's a vacancy, I believe it requires the individual who's filled on a temporary basis to then run for the remainder of that term. And I don't know when Mr. Ramsey's term would have expired, whether it would be
I
this
think
May.
it's 2003.
All right, so whoever fills the vacancy, if they choose to run, would then have to run, it would fill for the remainder of the unexpired term. So when
That's
the-
what was confusing me, because I did talk to Brian initially, and had mentioned that he would, if he was interested, have to run in May. And then when the letter came out, it said filling the term until 2003, which caused me some confusion.
But the stipulation, I believe, is that we fill the unexpired term until the next election, and then the unexpired term would then be filled in total, which is the remaining 2 years.
Right, whomever
it is.
wishes to seek it.
Right. With that, I'll accept a motion from Mr. Carrier to nominate Mr. Brian Blackwood of 8 Euclid Park West to fill the unexpired term, Mr. Ron Ramsey, and seconded by
Second.
Mr. Vino. Any further discussion?
That is until the next election in May.
He'll have to stand for election in May.
Okay.
Good, and I believe we'll have to do this on a roll call vote. So we have a motion by Mr. Carey to nominate Brian Blackwood, 8 Euclid Park West, to fill the vacancy of North Reading Housing Authority until the next town election in May 2001, seconded by Mr. Vino. Call on Mr. Carrier, you vote yes?
Yes.
Mr. Delaney?
Yay.
Mrs. O'Leary?
Yes.
Mr. Vino?
Aye.
Mr. Bagan?
Yes.
Mr. Rowe?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Unanimous. The guy has tremendous support. He'll be noticed.
Then he wins in May.
Landslide Blackwood.
I've met him too, very nice gentleman. I've met him on a couple of occasions.
Got a new monogram. It's Landslide Blackwood. Now, for the North Reading Housing Authority, again, he'll have to, clerk will have to sign something that's closed, and he'll have to get sworn in by the town clerk. Good, but we appreciate you coming. Yes, Mr. Sherry?
Thank you very much.
No, thank you very
I like
much.
these kind of meetings.
You like those kind of meetings?
So do we.
So do we.
This is not over yet.
Yeah, they over yet. Stick around.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thank you.
I'll just leave with you, you're a good-looking board.
Yeah.
Your glasses.
Something wrong with his glasses.
Sorry.
Reappointments, Police Station Building Committee. We did so, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I move to reappoint the following individuals to the Police Station Building Committee for an indefinite term. Edward Nolan, Daniel Jones, Harold Reynolds, and Robert Stone.
Second.
Motion duly made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Mr. Rowe?
That building committee, now, are they under a specific charge for a new building, or are they under the same as the school that, for whatever?
Pretty much
they
under
deem
the same
necessary?
charge to
Whatever they
address
do.
the space
Okay.
needs of the police department, housing
Okay.
needs of the police department. And again, we're changing the term. Initially, these members and other members had specific terms, I believe, and we're changing it to indefinite so that they can carry on with the projects until it's completed. Hopefully in the not-too-distant future.
If I may add a note to that.
Mr. Bagan?
Hopefully, these people will get together next Tuesday night, I believe it is, for a meeting with the architect. So they're moving forward immediately in the new year.
Well,
You know
again,
when and where that is, Jim?
No, I believe it will be in the paper this Thursday, though.
Mr. Chairman?
yeah.
Yeah, I'm talking with the, one of the members of the committee tonight. They're trying to arrange for a room, and I guess they're going to talk with you, Mr. Younger, as to where the room will be. But as Jim said, I heard the same thing. It's for 7 o'clock next Tuesday with the architects and with the full...
Which architects?
I believe it's Mr. Alexander.
One of the concerns that I have as a member of this board is that, first of all, we had taken a position and supported something, and I don't want to see this board lose control of this administration, lose control of the process here as far as the architectural design studies and things of that nature. I know Mr. Alexander was talking about taking a quick cursory look at a pro bono basis at things, but we have some old design plans that we can get updated by people who had studied it at length previously to also coincide with the other efforts that Mr. Alexander offered to do pro bono.
And I believe that's what's gonna take place. They're gonna take what has already been done and, bring it all together and put the whole proposition that's already been